Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for tonight's SHLA session. Like I said at the top, my name's Annalise. I run this program. You've probably been getting emails from me. Just some housekeeping rules up at the top. This session and all SHLA sessions are recorded, and they all end up being put up on our SHLA YouTube channel. Once this session is done and the recording is ready to go, I'll send out a link for you all to view it after the fact. And I'll give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We have Honda, ExxonMobil, Honeywell, Avnet, the Catherine McQuaid Foundation, and Danaher. And if you haven't been in a SHLA meetup before, this one is going to run similarly to how some of them have gone in the past. Tonight we are joined by some professional engineers, which is very exciting. We have some that are SWE members and then some from Honeywell. So tonight you're all going to be split out into breakout rooms with them, and they're going to give a presentation and answer some questions about what it's like to work within engineering. There will be time within the breakout rooms for a Q&A, but then we will also meet back up together outside of the breakout rooms to kind of do a debrief and then answer any other questions that might pop up. But now it's going to take me just a couple minutes here. I'm going to get you all sorted into breakout rooms, and then we're going to go ahead and get into this. Cool. I think everybody should be back now from the breakout rooms. So now, like in the last kind of portion of this session, we'll kind of do a debrief, and then there was a survey that was sent out to everybody, I think like last week, where you could mention any fears you have about entering engineering, ask some questions. So we'll kind of touch base on that. Ooh, Katie, I see your message in the chat.
Yes, we timed out while I was mid-sentence.
No, that's okay.
That.
No, that's a good point though. I mean, I wasn't in that discussion, but just seeing this, that's a very good tip. Was
the
there?
more eyes you can get on your resume, the better.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, that's kind of a good jumping off point. Was there anything that was covered in any of your sessions or breakout rooms? You can either raise your hand or put it in the chat box. But for the SHLA students, was there anything that was covered that surprised you? Maybe not. Maybe you can put it in the chat, raise your hand, or maybe nothing was surprising. That's okay too. Okay. Caroline said that it's easy to switch fields in your career/job. That is I feel like that's a good one to cover and a good one to know, because in the survey that was sent out, one of the most common fears that you all had listed was a fear of getting into your career and then down the line realizing that you don't really enjoy it. This might have been touched on in the breakout rooms, but for the volunteers that we have any of you experienced that within your own careers? Just feel free, if you've had that happen, to.
Yes, I was sharing with the group how I'm currently doing a bubble assignment. I'm a systems engineer, but I'm working with our project engineers, and then I'll be moving down to do some things with the material science group. So there's a lot to do. Just ask questions. I'm pretty sure your company will allow you to, whatever you would like to do.
No, that's great. Really good insight, because yeah, just a very common fear, and just to know that you can ask, and that usually workplaces will be willing to kind of help you grow. Okay, I'm looking through some other things that people had said. A lot of stuff in here about visiting career fairs and then kind of doing research beforehand to make sure you know who's going to be there. I think that's really helpful. Shreya said that career paths can be different from what you originally set out to do. I feel like that happens a lot. I mean, there's always that, I feel like I hear a lot of people talk about sometimes the degree they got in college doesn't end up necessarily like aligning with what their career ends up being. Um, I guess I'll toss that over to our volunteers. Did any of you like, are any of your current positions kind of different from what you studied in school? Does anyone want to say what they studied and then kind of what they're in now?
I mean, if no one has any certain experiences, I will say the great thing about an engineering education, or at least in my experience and my colleagues' experience, is you do a little bit of everything at school. So you have the chance to learn about a lot of different paths you can take, and then if you like one, you can go down that path. That's what happened to me. I took one class and I said, "That's it, this is what I'm doing." I don't know if anybody else has thoughts.
I got into my very first job out of college. Although honestly, I feel like in all of my internships, I was figuring out what I didn't want to do. Like I would try something, I would be like, hmm. So one summer I did almost exclusively mechanical design CAD. I was like, wow, I that was a good experience, but that's not what I want to do day in, day out. Like, okay, so moving on, next thing. I did more manufacturing type stuff. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, but I don't think this is what I want to do. I moved on, did finite element analysis and structural analysis. And again, I was like, okay, I like this, but probably not enough to do this for the next 40 years of my career. And so it's all about figuring out what you don't want to do too, and knowing that the skills that you have will allow you to pivot. Because it doesn't have to be a big jump. You don't have to say, oh, I don't like working in CAD, so I'm not going to be a mechanical engineer anymore. No, there's a million things you can do as a mechanical engineer. You can do heat transfer, you can do different modeling, you can do almost any kind of modeling, really. There's so many opportunities even within each major. So just like combing through those, and then if you do end up switching disciplines, that's also fine. But know that you have a lot of options, and honestly, you have a lot more options than you're even going to know of while you're in school. So getting your first job and then networking through your company, figuring out who has interesting jobs and whether they're going to have an opening in their group, that's honestly the best way to do it, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. There was another question that was, or just comment that was put in the chat that kind of also correlates with one of the fears that was commonly mentioned in that survey. Isabella had said, although more or less expected, the sheer lack of female representation is scary. And that was kind of one of the fears listed too within the survey of just having to deal with misogyny or dealing with feeling isolated, you know, in your career field because of being a woman. I don't know if any of you, those who are here as volunteers, if you've experienced that, and if so, if you have any recommendations on how to like deal with it or how to kind of work through it.
I can start with that. I think for me it's kind of varied on different teams that I've been on. But there have definitely been some roles where I think I was treated a little bit differently because of my gender. And I think my biggest advice for that situation is trying to figure out who within the workplace can be a good ally, whether it's someone directly on the team or even if it's, another manager on a different team, something like that, just someone you can kind of talk to you about what's going on or someone who's able to step in if needed or tell someone if something kind of needs to change. And I think another big thing for me has been sort of having a bit of a community outside of the workplace as well. So, I have like some friends from college who are also women engineers, sometimes experiencing similar things. And so kind of having that sounding board to be able to talk to and kind of vent about things or get advice, see if other people have been in a similar situation. That's also been helpful.
That's great. No, that I feel like those are good tips, Nina. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to share with that?
Yeah, I would agree. My friends call it like finding our tribe. I was fortunate to go to a school that generally only had engineering, so my SWE section was very strong. And when I found that group, it was like a breath of fresh air. But especially when you do get into a workplace and when you're looking for a potential place to work, make sure you're checking out their employee resource groups and making sure they have one devoted to a group that you feel like you would like to meet up with. Um, because that has been especially important to me, especially in the past few weeks. It's been nice to have a group of women to talk to at work.
I think that's a really good point about, different groups at work and those resources. I know, SWE even has, you can join SWE sections and affinity groups, which I feel like can also be helpful in forming a sense of community with others and help you not feel so alone within engineering. Um, there was another fear that was listed in that survey, like frequently, that I'll bring in. And I don't know if this was touched on within the breakout rooms, but it was listed pretty consistently of there being a fear of just of not getting good enough grades, or like I think a little bit of, feeling like, oh, what if I'm not smart enough to be an engineer? For those who are volunteers here, I don't know if any of you have ever had those same feelings, or if you struggled with grades in high school or college. If anybody has anything to say about that.
I can touch on such. For me, growing up, grades were such a big deal, and I thought that you would be graded in a sense in your professional life. I mean, yes, you are with your reviews. However, it's not the same. When I got into the actual professional field, I realized there's a learning curve for everyone, and they're going to teach you everything you need to know, anyways. And even if you don't know something or you're not sure, there's always someone to ask. So, in regards to grades being a big deal, I mean, they are. You do need to pass your classes, but after you graduate, no one's looking.
And to add on to that, it's important to know that in college, there's always, like Mackenzie was saying, there's always someone you can ask. So go and ask your professors. They have office hours for a reason. They want to talk to you. The TAs want to talk to you. There's so many people out there who want to help you and want to help you understand how things work. Because essentially that's what you're learning. You're learning how things work on either a physics, chemistry, mathematical scale, and then you're learning to apply it. That's what engineering is, applied math and science. So if you can allow those people who want to help you learn these things, you're going to do really well. So just lean into the resources that you have.
Those are both like really great, things to keep in mind, good insight and good advice. Because I like your point too, Mackenzie, that you had kind of made about, people when you get hired, like they're going to train you. Like I feel like, people that hire you, they want you to succeed because they're like having you join their team and their company. So in that sense, and also kind of what you said, Katie, like, talking to people at work if you have questions, and, seeing if anybody that you work with has additional resources for learning or developing skills. I think it's kind of like a continual lifelong learning type of situation. Well, I think we're kind of close to about the end. If no one's added any additional questions into the chat, it doesn't look like. But if there are any others, you can always send them my way. I'll put the email in here. But if you have any questions, you can always contact me at outreach@swe.org. That's in the chat. And I want to give a really big thanks to all of our volunteers who came tonight. Just so great for us to get to learn from you all, learn about your experiences, learn about what it's like to be working, more within engineering, and just all of your tips, insight, and advice is so helpful to everybody. I'm going to give a quick shout out again to our sponsors. We have Honda, ExxonMobil, Honeywell, Avnet, the Catherine McQuaid Foundation, and Danaher. Like I said at the top of the session, this has been recorded. It'll be available on our YouTube channel. I'll send out the link. But I think that is everything for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and you're all free to go. Thanks so much.